Hi everybody, welcome to Module 6 Part 11, Errorless Teaching and Error Correction. Alright, so these two terms have error in it, right? But they can be very different. Okay, let's take a look at it. Now again, it is under the implementation process, right? So what is errorless teaching? Now, when we spoke about prompt earlier on, all right, we say prompts are necessary cues or hints to help a child to respond correctly. Now, Skinner says errors are not necessary for learning to occur, okay, while Terrace says introduce errorless teaching, which is a procedure where learners are repeatedly exposed to the correct answer with the use of prompting and eliminates and decreases the opportunity for incorrect choice selection. Now, the theory behind errorless teaching is that children, especially those with special needs, okay, they do not learn as successfully, okay, from their mistake as typically developing children may, okay, but instead for them once they make an error, they may continue to repeat them, okay, so errors may be confusing for them, right? So research has shown that frustration, all this frustration that is following all these incorrect responses are often associated with trial and error learning. Okay, so all these frustration from their errors can actually provoke problem behaviors, like tantrums, aggression, or even self-injury, right? So this is why errorless teaching is encouraged whenever we are working with children with special needs, right? Now, so what is errorless teaching? Again, it is a strategy that ensures the learners always responds correctly. So we minimize errors in learning. Okay, so errorless teaching are normally used in the beginning of the training. Okay, so try not to put the child on a testing mode. Okay, so try not to keep asking questions or getting them to guess the answers again and again. Okay, so according to Skinner, again, it is not necessary for errors to happen in the learning process. Okay, so as each skill is taught, the learner is provided with a prompt. Okay, so immediately provide the prompt following your instructions so that we do not allow any error to happen. Okay, so some people may wonder, hey, then will the child be prompt dependent, right? uh right, prompts has to be systematically removed once the child is able to slowly master the skill. Okay, so it is something that we have to fade, right? It's the same as prompt fading. So the immediate prompt prevents any chance of incorrect response. Okay, so this is unlike a lot of different approaches where or teaching procedures where like we create opportunities of mistakes and then allow the child or the individual to correct um, through prompting. Okay, so we prompt after the mistake, but errorless teaching is really to prompt immediately before they even make a wrong response. Okay, so error is not necessary. All right. Now, what is error correction then? How is it different from errorless teaching? Now, error correction is very, very different from errorless teaching because it is done when the learner responds incorrectly, okay, or when the learner does not respond. Now, a lot of times in session, we do see, them responding incorrectly, giving the wrong answers, or they do not respond when you give the SD, right? So that's when you use error correction procedure. Okay, so what is error correction? The first step is we provide corrective feedback. Okay, so this feedback here is not shouting at them. Okay, so you do not have to raise your voice. You can just say no, or you can say try again. Okay, you provide the corrective feedback. Okay, and then you begin the trial again. Okay, so you stop the trial immediately when they give you an incorrect response. Okay, then you provide the feedback. All right, and then go back to begin the whole trial again, meaning you present the instruction again. Okay, so once you presented the instruction, because there is a possibility that the child may make another mistake, okay, or may not respond. right? So this is when you prompt the learner immediately, okay, right after the SD. Okay, so say for instance, what is your name? And the child says 10 years old, okay, for example. So you say, no, try again, and then you ask again, what is your name? Immediately provide the prompt, okay? Like for example, you can say Stephen, okay, and then the learner will respond, Stephen, okay, and then you reinforce immediately if the response is correct. Okay, and then what you do later on is that you provide another trial with a reduced prompt. Okay, so for example, you can say, what is your name? Steve. Okay, then this child says Stephen, right? So you are reducing the prompt to a from a full prompt to a partial prompt, right? And then once the child gives the correct answer, you reinforce again. Okay, so then you go on until you can finally fade all the prompts and the child can provide the correct answer without prompt. Okay, so most of the time error correction is more systematic when we do it in a discrete trial training, okay, DTT, right? We will talk about DTT in our next few recordings. Okay, so try not to use punishment in your session, okay, because when we build a skill, we want to use reinforcement, okay, to encourage the child to learn something, right? So if we use punishment, okay, then you may not be teaching, okay, you're just decreasing the wrong answer. But what about the correct answer? Are we providing enough prompts to teach that or not? Okay, so this is why instead of uh, reprimanding the child, like, how many times do you want me to tell you? The answer is this one. Okay, so try not to do that. Okay, provide corrective feedback, right? Give a no. Okay, you can say no, but then always remember to prompt later on. Okay, so that we can build the skill from there, right? Okay, so this is an example of how error correction is being done in a learning program. Okay, so there are two types of error correction that we will be talking about, right? This first one is learning program, right? Later we will talk about behavior chain, okay, what to do when there is an error in the behavior chain. Okay, so right, let's take a look at this example. So the SD here is touch nose. Okay, say for instance you want to teach body part. Okay, you're getting the child to touch nose so that you want to check if he can discriminate between nose and all the other body parts, right? Okay, so we are assuming that the child has already master knows, okay, because you are failing your prompt already, right? When we talk about errorless prompt, errorless teaching, we use prompt, okay, and we fade all the way. So this trial, as you can see, the first one, there's no prompt there, okay? So we are assuming that the child has already mastered knows, okay, the item knows. So this time, because the therapist assumed that the child already know, so there's no prompt given, but the learner gave a wrong response, right? Which is touching ears instead. Okay, so what is the consequence here? You first step, you provide the corrective feedback. Okay, so you say try again, and then you stop the trial already. You go to the next trial. Okay, so you restart the whole trial again. You give the same SD. Try not to try not to give another SD. Okay, stick to the same SD, right? Touch nose, and then this time immediately prompt the child to touch the nose. Okay, you can prompt hand over hand prompt, physical prompt, okay, to touch the nose, right? So once the child touches the nose, you say good job, that's right, that is nose, that's right. Okay, then the next trial you can say touch nose again. Okay, this time you want to work towards fading your prompt. Okay, this time instead of full prompt, you probably just nudge from the elbow. Okay, and then the child can reach to the nose. Okay, once he touches the nose, you say good job again, so you reinforce again, right? And the next trial, this time you want to fade your prompt completely and see without prompt, uh, whether without prompt the child can touch nose by himself. Okay, so this time you give the same SD without prompt, and then if the child can do it, you say good job. Now there are some therapists who like to do another trial behind, okay, by checking again checking and see if the child really understand what nose is. Okay, so they may do some other programs later on. Okay, something that is not related to this program. For example, clap hands, high five, show me, show me where's your tummy. Okay, and then after all these trials, okay, of course, all these trials have to be something that the child has mastered. Okay, so the child can do it without prompt. If not, you have to go through the whole error correction procedure again. Okay, so they go through all these different trials and then they come back again, touch nose, and this time no problem at all, and see if the child has any mistakes. Okay, so if let's say the child makes another mistake, that means he may be confused about what nose is, okay, or he hasn't fully mastered what nose is. Okay, then you may have to redo the training again for that particular item. Okay, so this is how we do error correction in a learning program, right? Now, moving on to the next type of error correction. Okay, so error can happen when you are training a routine as well. Okay, so in the behavior chain. So what happens if there is an error in the behavior chain? Okay, so these are the steps. Okay, first one, stop the student as soon as possible, right, on that particular step itself. Okay, then you backstep the last correctly performed step. Okay, the previous step that the child is able to do independently, right? And then from there, before he moves on to the next step, which is the incorrect step, you provide sufficient prompt, okay, enough prompts so that the child do not make error again. Okay, so you can use different types of prompts, physical prompts. Okay, avoid using verbal prompt again, right, in a behavior chain, right? And then if it's practically possible, we know a lot of times it is not possible. Okay, but whenever it is possible, you can repeat the entire chain again if it is possible. Okay, so let's take an example here. Now, say for instance, you are teaching a child to wash hands, right? So let's say if the child makes a mistake at rinsing, okay, let's say he rubbed his hands with soap and immediately he switched off the water, okay? So he missed the step of rinsing it, for instance, okay? So you stop the student immediately when he did not rinse, okay? You backstep to the last correctly performed step, which is rubbing hands with soap. Okay, so he rubs his hands with soap already. What do you do next? You provide physical prompt immediately. Okay, help the child to rinse the soap off, right? So this is providing prompt. Right, then once the child has already rinsed hands with your guidance, right? Then you can allow the child to continue with the rest of the steps in the behavior chain. Okay, so if it's possible, you can always get the child to repeat the entire chain again. Okay, now of course for washing hands, it's a relatively short behavior chain. Okay, so if it's possible, you can get the child to repeat, right? But there are some chains that are really long. Like for example, it doesn't make sense if the child, have to take off the socks and re-wear the socks again. Okay, you may trigger some frustration there, right? Or if the child has completed the shower routine and something is wrong in between and you get the child to shower again. Okay, so these are not practically possible. Okay, you just have to probably practice a few more times on a daily basis. Okay, right. Now, so for your assignment for this recording is to try to use error correction procedure in your session. Okay, so you can choose one of the following, either a particular learning program or a routine that you are teaching the child, right? Record a short video of you implementing the error correction procedure whenever error occurs. Okay, I'm sure there will be errors within a learning program or routine. Okay, so try to practice that, okay, because error correction is something that we have to use every day in our session. Okay, so it's quite an important skill to practice. All right, thank you.